Hi everybody, I'm gonna try to do this quicker than last time. This is the summary for chapter 2, which is the title is The Joy of Death, and this is basically, it has to do with abortion. So at the beginning of the chapter, in page 47, I really like, how she talks about um, just a British journalist named Antonia Senior, and how this woman says that, she says, my daughter was formed at conception. Any other conclusion is a convenient lie that we on the pro-choice side of the debate tell ourselves to make us feel better about the action of taking a life. This journalist ends her article by saying, to defend women's rights, you must be prepared to kill. And I think this maybe, I don't know if you're familiar with the Ministry of Apologia Church with James White and Jeff Durbin. His daughter also goes there, Summer White. They always make the argument that the people who have abortions, no, I'm not saying all of them, but many of them are really not victims. And because of that, you have to confront them. You have to be compassionate with them. I'm not saying you don't have to, but you have to confront them with the gospel. Because they do know what they're doing. Many of them do know. Also in page 50, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Descartes, I guess, is best known for his famous phrase, I think, therefore I am. Many of the things that he taught and lived were just like serving, his body and desires of the mind and stuff like that. So I really think like throughout the whole chapter, she keeps on basically what we read in chapter 1. She keeps on repeating it over and over, and it's a good thing because it just opens your eyes to all the arguments that people have. But really, once you discover the worldview, then it's easy to understand it. And it gives us, in page 52 it says, to support abortion by sheer logic, we must decide that human life in its earliest stages has no real value. So little that it may be killed for any reason. But then we must decide that at some later stage, it is transformed into a different kind of being of such high value that killing it is murder. So I think this would be, if you have friends who support abortion, I think this is something that is really good for you, for me too, to kind of help them reason through, or help them, like, just press the argument, right? Like, when does this human being become so valuable that you're not willing to kill it? So when does it begin, right? Like in the next section, when she asks who qualifies as a person. And obviously she gives the analogy, or well, not the analogy, but she gives the different worldview of the Bible, right? Where we believe that all men are created equal, because that's an appeal to the Creator. And the fact that I can reason is better, or like I have better skills, is just not. When I meet somebody who is more intelligent than I am, does that mean that they are more of a person than I am, right? And then in page 55, she says, a Christian concept of personhood depends not on what I can do, but on who I am. That I am created in the image of God, and that God has called me into existence and continues to know me and love me. That's so cute. Well, not so cute, but like there's one catechism question that we say, who made you? God made me. Why did he make you? For his own glory. And then, why are you to glorify him? how can you glorify God by loving him and doing what he commands? And then why ought you to glorify him? And the answer is because he loves me and he takes care of me. And that's just so sweet to know that he doesn't love you and he didn't create you for what you could do. Not even for yourself, not even for him, right? I mean, whatever you can do for him is just not even pleasing to him unless you have faith in Christ, according to Hebrews 11 and according to Romans 8. So anyways, it says here, on purely scientific grounds, page 58, on purely scientific grounds, all their concepts were really relevant. Or the moment when the baby takes the first breath, right, like the quickening. As a result, it was physicians, not churches, who were the leading advocates for laws criminalizing abortion. That was like many years ago. It was actually, because sometimes I think she's just telling us about how we Christians are the ones who are saying that abortion is wrong or morally wrong on purely religious grounds, but she's explaining that that's just not true. Actually, it was science, right? Like there's not this fight between science and religion. How it was actually science that showed that really life began at conception. So it was really physicians who came up with the laws for criminalizing abortion at the very beginning, and that the law protected them because they were human beings. But now, obviously, whoever has the most power is the one who will decide who is a person, but nobody agrees. Because obviously, even though they claim to be scientific, in reality, it's just very private and subjective, and obviously nobody can tell you what is this magical force. This in page 60. There's this magical force that has the power to convert a mere physical thing into a person with dignity, that is so profound that it's morally wrong to kill it. And nobody can tell you anything. Oh yeah, so I wrote this on page 65. In the materialistic worldview, of course, there is no creator to endow you with human rights. There is only a blind evolutionary process devoid of any purpose. Birds do not fly because they have a right to fly, but because they have wings. Anyways, so this is just something about this guy who's just kind of considering the Declaration of Independence, and it's just kind of deconstructing it, right? And it just, what I wrote was that reality hits you in the face, because when women have an abortion, they feel empty, they feel sad, they feel empty, and they don't know why. Anyways, so even though they say it's not a big deal, it ends up being a big deal. Like it, just like when you fall down and you say, oh, but I don't believe in gravity. Well, gravity exists, so you're still in pain because you just hit your face on the ground. Oh, here it is. See, page 66. There was a study. 78% of women who had an abortion checked off that they felt guilty afterward. And 56% reported that they felt sad, feeling sadness and loss. So, what else? Let me see. I'm almost done, actually. Yay! Well, not really. So, oh, I love this. In page 69, she starts talking about why women love Christianity in the first century. And why it was so attractive to women. It was just she's just talking about everything that Jesus taught and the Apostle Paul taught was so revolutionary, right? Like, husbands, love your wives. Like, there was no way that a husband was supposed to be loving his wife back then. Or even, like when they preached about holding the marriage in high esteem and the bed should not be defiled, and you had to actually be loyal and not commit adultery with any other women, right? Actually, it was rare for a Roman family to have a daughter. They would just kill them. It was the Christians who actually adopted babies or would just pick up the babies that were just left there to die. That was the way that they would practice abortion in antiquity. Um, and that still happens. When I was in India, when I was living in India, I lived in India for a year and a half. They would tell me, this missionary that I work with, she would tell me that in many families, still women, like little girls, are put to death, not because their parents actually kill them, but because like if they are starving and there's only one last piece of chicken that basically will save a child, they will give it to the boy, not to the girl. So that's horrible. The most reliable index of how deeply Christianity had permeated a society, right? That's a historical fact, was whether it outlawed sexual slavery. Today, as sex slavery and sex trafficking are again becoming widespread, modern Christians must recover the rich moral and humanitarian heritage. So she just keeps on talking about how in ancient culture, marriages were not love-based, and so all this legal language that Paul is just constructing in Corinthians, right? Like how adultery was a violation of God's intention for humanity, how men were called to sexual fidelity and exclusivity, just as women were, and also how it was just like unthinkable, right? Like the wife would have rights over the body of her husband. So Paul's writings were really radical. I loved it. This is so sugary. Anyway, I don't think this was her intention, but she says that we have accepted the cultural imperative that we must get established in our careers, right? Like women have accepted this before they can think seriously about marriage and motherhood. And how many young women are petrified of getting pregnant and falling off the career tank. And I think she just goes to talk about how, her deepest aspiration was in the academic world. And so, like, dropping out of school to raise a child was just kind of like horrible. Just the whole idea for her was horrible. I don't think she was a Christian, but then she converted later, I guess. So later I discovered that I loved being a mother, but at the time she felt kind of like, not really into it. Because the sacrifices, so this is what she says, the sacrifices that women are required to make in industrialized societies by giving up their public life and career is a major reason that many hold a negative view of pregnancy and child rearing and then resort to abortion. And so she elaborates that we should adapt, like we should demand, say, universities and the marketplace to give women kind of like more opportunities so that you don't have to abort your baby, right? Like in theory you abort because you don't have the opportunity that, like, say, to have daycare at your job or whatever. And yes, I guess that would be amazing. But what I think, when I read this, what I thought is, I think in the church we have failed. I think we're always telling our daughters, like, you can be a doctor, you can be a dentist, you can be a great CEO of this amazing company. And I guess you can. I'm not saying that women are completely smart. I'm not saying they're stupid. But I think what about training our daughters to be mommies and wives? Like, why is that? I think, like, if we train our children, our daughters particularly, to say, I'm not saying you have to. All I'm saying is that I never considered this until lately. And I mean lately for the last 2 or 3 years, right? Because I was raised, without even knowing, I was raised by like a hardcore feminist. I was talking to my mom the other day, and she said, I don't know what she was saying. Oh, well, just she said some horrible things about me not getting pregnant again. Um, and then I realized, wow, like, you know, she raised me thinking, like, men are horrible, I had to do this, I had to do that, like, I had to provide for myself, like, never trust a man. Um, it's like all these ideas, and I'm like, oh, you know, like, you're a feminist, like, they've told me about you. So, and I mean, and that's great. Like, if you want your child to, it's okay to have big dreams, right? Like, if your daughter can be a neurosurgeon, great. But what is she gonna do when she gets pregnant? Like, she has all these huge amount of debt that now she's gonna have to pay. And if she keeps on going to save lives, right? Because she's like this highly demanded physician that needs to save lives, that's fine. That's all fine. But you cannot have your cake and eat it too. I think that's the expression. Like, somebody's gonna have to raise that child. So if she's gonna go away for hours and hours of hours during the day because she's at the hospital, then somebody else is gonna be raising that child, right? So, anyways, that's just my humble opinion. So, personally, with Libby, I'm just telling her, you know, you need to be thinking, not that you have to decide right now, but just think about it. Like, if you want to do something, you know, like if you want to pursue a career, you just need to know that either one, study something that that you will be able to pay off debt, right? It would be like, it would not be humongous debt. And that, like, if you want to work, that's fine. But when you have your own family, like, it's okay to stay home. Like, actually, this is your calling. Like, if you are pregnant, that's the highest calling, right? To stay home and being a mom and raise your little ones. So anyways, so then she's talking about at the end about ministries that in page 80, about these ministries, about a guy in South Korea that, you know, babies with deformities are seen as national shame. So there's like these ministries that are called baby boxes, in which you have 3 minutes after a call. You can just call the phone and drop your baby there, and then in 3 minutes somebody will come and pick it up if you just don't want it. Anyways, and then she ends the chapter by saying, in the ancient world, Christians were distinctive for their humanitarian efforts, taking care of babies and slaves, of widows and orphans, of the sick and elderly, and the unwanted and abandoned. So, I don't know how long it was, but I think it was way, way shorter than last time. So, yes. Okay, see you, bye.